Sarah worked as a nurse at Atlanta General Hospital, where every day she helped many sick people get better. She loved her job because it made her happy to see patients smile when they started feeling well again. At 28 years old, she was known in the hospital for her bright smile and kind heart. Many of her friends were already married, but Sarah hadn't found the right person yet. One rainy Tuesday morning in March, Sarah's supervisor asked her to help in the rehabilitation wing of the hospital. This was different from her usual work with children, but Sarah always liked learning new things. As she walked down the long hallway to her new assignment, she had no idea that this day would change her life forever. That's where she met Marcus Thompson. He sat in his wheelchair near the window, looking outside at the rain falling. Marcus was 32 years old and used to be a famous dance teacher before a bad car accident 6 months ago hurt his legs. Even though he couldn't walk anymore, Marcus still had the warmest smile Sarah had ever seen. "Good morning," Sarah said as she walked into his room to check his medicine. "I'm Sarah, and I'll be helping you today." Marcus turned his wheelchair around and gave her a big smile. "Nice to meet you, Sarah. I'm Marcus, but my friends call me Mark." His voice was friendly and made Sarah feel comfortable right away. As Sarah checked his blood pressure and temperature, they started talking. Marcus told funny stories about his dance students, and Sarah shared stories about the children she helped at the hospital. They both loved music, and Marcus got excited when he found out Sarah also liked jazz, just like him. "You know," Marcus said, laughing, "being stuck in this wheelchair isn't fun, but at least it brought me to meet someone who knows good music." Sarah found herself spending extra time in Marcus's room that day. She noticed how positive he stayed, even though his life had changed so much. When he told jokes, his whole face lit up, and his laugh was so genuine that everyone around him couldn't help but smile too. During lunch break, Sarah saw Marcus practicing his wheelchair movements in the therapy room. Even though he couldn't dance like before, he moved his wheelchair with such grace that it looked like he was still dancing. Sarah watched him from the doorway, amazed by his spirit. "Would you like to join my wheelchair dance class?" Marcus joked when he saw her. Sarah laughed and walked in to talk more with him. Over the next few days, Sarah kept finding reasons to visit Marcus's room. They talked about everything: their families, their dreams, and their favorite movies. Marcus told Sarah about growing up in Chicago and how he started dancing when he was just 6 years old. Sarah shared stories about her big family in Atlanta and how she always wanted to help people, which led her to become a nurse. Even the other nurses noticed how Sarah's face brightened whenever she was around Marcus. Her friend Jenny, another nurse, teased her saying, "Girl, I've never seen you smile so much at work before." One day, while helping Marcus with his therapy, he asked Sarah if she would have coffee with him in the hospital cafeteria. Sarah felt butterflies in her stomach, something she hadn't felt in a long time. "I'd love to," she answered, trying not to show how excited she was. That first coffee meeting turned into many more. They would meet during Sarah's breaks, sharing cookies and talking about life. Marcus told her about his accident and how scary it was at first, but how he was learning to see life in a new way. Sarah admired how brave he was and how he never let his disability stop him from being happy. The other hospital staff started noticing their special friendship. Some people whispered about them, a black nurse and a white patient in a wheelchair, but Sarah and Marcus didn't care. They found something special in each other that went beyond what others could see. As weeks passed, both Sarah and Marcus realized that what started as a chance meeting in a hospital room was turning into something much more meaningful. Neither of them knew it yet, but this was just the beginning of their amazing love story. 3 months after they first met, Sarah and Marcus's friendship grew into something more special. They started spending time together outside the hospital. Marcus would wait for Sarah after her shifts ended, and they would go to the park nearby. Even though he was in a wheelchair, Marcus found ways to make every moment fun and exciting. One sunny afternoon, Sarah decided it was time to tell her parents about Marcus. She felt nervous because she knew they might not understand. Her mother, Mrs. Jenkins, had always dreamed of Sarah marrying a successful black doctor or lawyer. And her father, Mr. Jenkins, worried about his daughter's life being too difficult with a disabled partner. "Mama, Daddy, I want you to meet someone special," Sarah said during Sunday dinner at her parents' house. "His name is Marcus, and he's very important to me." Her mother put down her fork and looked worried. "Tell me more about this Marcus," she said quietly. When Sarah showed them a picture of Marcus on her phone, the room got very quiet. Her father frowned and said, "Sarah, baby, are you sure about this? Life is already hard enough. Why choose more challenges?" Sarah felt tears in her eyes but stayed strong. "Because he makes me happy, Daddy. Marcus is the kindest, most positive person I've ever met. His wheelchair doesn't change who he is inside." Meanwhile, Marcus was having his own difficult conversation with his family. His sister Lisa worried that Sarah might leave him one day because taking care of a disabled person was too hard. His mother, Mrs. Thompson, had concerns about their different backgrounds. "Son, are you sure she understands what she's getting into?" his mother asked. "It's not just about the wheelchair. You two come from different worlds." Marcus sat up straighter in his wheelchair and looked at his family. "Sarah understands me better than anyone ever has," he said firmly. "She sees me as a man, not just someone in a wheelchair, and her being black doesn't change how we feel about each other." Sarah and Marcus decided to face these challenges together. They planned a dinner where both families could meet. Sarah cooked her mother's famous chicken recipe, while Marcus made sure his apartment was perfectly arranged for everyone to feel comfortable. The dinner started awkwardly. Both families sat stiffly, making small talk about the weather. But then Marcus started telling funny stories about his dance students from before his accident, and Sarah shared sweet stories about the children she helped at the hospital. Slowly, the tension started to melt away. Mrs. Jenkins noticed how Marcus looked at her daughter with so much love and respect. Mr. Jenkins saw how Marcus made Sarah laugh and how happy she seemed. Mrs. Thompson watched Sarah help Marcus so naturally without making him feel uncomfortable. During dessert, something special happened. Sarah's little nephew Tommy, who was only 5, walked up to Marcus and asked, "Can I ride in your wheelchair?" Everyone got quiet, worried about how Marcus would react. But Marcus smiled brightly and said, "How about I show you some cool wheelchair tricks instead?" He did some spins and moves that made Tommy laugh with joy. This simple moment changed everything. Both families saw how Marcus didn't let his disability stop him from connecting with others, and how Sarah's love for him was real and deep. At the end of the evening, Sarah's father pulled Marcus aside. "I was wrong," he admitted. "I see now that you make my daughter happy. That's all a father wants for his little girl." Mrs. Thompson hugged Sarah and whispered, "Thank you for loving my son for who he is." Over the next few weeks, both families started spending more time together. They learned that love doesn't care about the color of someone's skin or whether they can walk. What mattered was the happiness Sarah and Marcus found in each other. Marcus and Sarah grew stronger because of these challenges. They showed everyone that true love could break through any barrier. Their families realized that what made their relationship special wasn't what people could see on the outside, but the beautiful connection they shared in their hearts. 6 months after their families became friendly with each other, Marcus knew it was time to ask Sarah to marry him. He wanted to make the proposal very special, something Sarah would remember forever. Even though he couldn't get down on one knee like other men, Marcus had a clever plan. Marcus called Sarah's best friend Jenny from the hospital to help him. They spent weeks planning everything secretly. Marcus also asked his physical therapist to help him practice a special wheelchair dance routine. Every day after Sarah's work hours, he would practice until he got every move perfect. Marcus chose Liberty Park for the proposal because it was where they had their first date. He remembered how Sarah had pushed his wheelchair around the lake that day, and they had talked for hours under the big oak tree. Now, that same place would become even more special. "Sarah, would you like to go to Liberty Park this Saturday?" Marcus asked one day after their usual lunch date. "The weather will be nice, and I heard there's going to be a small music festival." Sarah smiled and said yes right away. She didn't know that there wasn't really any music festival. Marcus had arranged for a local jazz band to be there just for them. When Saturday came, Sarah wore her favorite blue dress. Marcus looked handsome in a new white shirt and dark pants. Jenny had helped him attach tiny LED lights to his wheelchair's wheels, but Sarah hadn't noticed them yet because it was still daylight. They spent the afternoon in the park, eating ice cream and listening to the jazz band play their favorite songs. As the sun started to set, Marcus suggested they go to their special spot near the oak tree. "The music sounds even prettier from here," Sarah said, sitting on a park bench while Marcus positioned his wheelchair next to her. "Sarah," Marcus said softly, "remember the first time we came here?" You told me that sometimes the best things in life come in unexpected ways. Sarah nodded, smiling at the memory. Then Marcus pressed a hidden button on his wheelchair, and suddenly all the LED lights lit up in beautiful patterns. He started moving his wheelchair in the special dance routine he had practiced so hard. The lights on his wheels made magical patterns in the evening air. They spelled out words as Marcus moved. Sarah, then Will, then you, then Mary, and finally me. Sarah's hands flew to her mouth in surprise. Tears filled her eyes as she watched Marcus create this beautiful light show just for her. People walking nearby stopped to watch, amazed by the romantic scene. Before I met you, Marcus said, his voice full of emotion, I thought my accident had taken away my chance to dance again. But you showed me that love finds new ways to dance, new ways to be beautiful. He pulled out a small velvet box from his pocket. Inside was a beautiful ring with a sparkling diamond. I may not be able to get down on one knee, Marcus said, but I promise to lift you up every day of our lives. Will you marry me, Sarah Jenkins? Sarah could hardly speak through her happy tears. Yes, she finally managed to say, yes, I will marry you. As Marcus slipped the ring on her finger, the jazz band, which had quietly moved closer, started playing their favorite song. People in the park clapped and cheered for them. Jenny appeared with her camera, having photographed the whole proposal. I knew you would say yes, she said, hugging Sarah tightly. More surprises waited for them. Both their families came out from behind the trees where they had been hiding to watch. There were hugs, tears, and lots of joy. Mrs. Jenkins hugged Marcus and welcomed him to the family. Mr. Thompson lifted Sarah off the ground in a big bear hug. That evening, as they all celebrated at a nearby restaurant, Sarah couldn't stop looking at her ring and smiling. Marcus kept holding her hand, his eyes full of love. You made this the most magical proposal ever, Sarah told him. I didn't think I could love you more, but you proved me wrong. Marcus smiled and squeezed her hand. This is just the beginning, he said. We're going to have a lifetime of magical moments together. As their families celebrated around them, Sarah and Marcus knew that their love story was proving to everyone that real love has no limits. Their proposal story would be told for years to come, showing that the most beautiful moments in life don't have to be traditional to be perfect. After the beautiful proposal, Sarah and Marcus started planning their wedding. They wanted everything to be perfect, but they faced some special challenges. The first big task was finding a place for the wedding that Marcus could easily move around in with his wheelchair. We need somewhere without stairs, Sarah told their wedding planner, Maria, and the aisles need to be wide enough for Marcus's wheelchair. They visited 5 different places before finding the perfect one, the Garden View Hotel. It had beautiful ramps instead of stairs, wide doorways, and an elevator that could take Marcus anywhere he needed to go. The hotel also had a lovely garden where they could have their ceremony. This is it, Marcus said, as he smoothly wheeled through the space. Look at how the sunlight comes through those big windows. You look like an angel walking down that aisle, Sarah. The next challenge was planning their first dance. Marcus worried about this part the most, but Sarah had an idea. She asked his old dance student, Kevin, who was now a professional dancer, to help them create a special wheelchair dance. We can make it beautiful, Kevin said during their first practice. Marcus, you still have your sense of rhythm, and Sarah, you're a natural dancer. They practiced every weekend for 2 months. Marcus learned to spin his wheelchair in smooth circles while Sarah danced around him. Sometimes they got frustrated when things didn't work right away, but they never gave up. Remember when you taught me to dance? Kevin told Marcus during a hard practice, you always said that dancing comes from the heart, not just the feet. Choosing their wedding clothes was another adventure. Marcus needed a suit that would look good and feel comfortable while sitting in his wheelchair. The regular suit shops didn't understand what they needed. Then they found Mr. Chen, an old tailor who had experience making clothes for people in wheelchairs. Don't worry, he told Marcus with a kind smile. I will make you the most handsome groom in Atlanta. Sarah found her perfect dress at the 3rd store they visited. When she tried it on, Marcus's mom and her mom both cried happy tears. The dress had to be adjusted a bit so it wouldn't get caught in Marcus's wheelchair when they danced, but the seamstress knew exactly what to do. Their families helped a lot with the planning. Sarah's sisters helped pick out flowers and decorations. Marcus's brother designed special place cards for the tables that showed a wheelchair and a dancer holding hands. One evening, while they were tasting different wedding cakes, Marcus looked worried. Sarah noticed and asked him what was wrong. "I want to make sure I don't run over your dress during the ceremony," he said quietly. "What if I mess things up?" Sarah took his hand and smiled. "The only way things could get messed up is if you weren't there," she said. "We'll practice everything until we know it by heart." So they practiced. They practiced how Marcus would wait at the front of the aisle. They practiced how Sarah would walk towards him. They even practiced how they would hold hands during the ceremony. The hotel staff was very helpful too. They suggested putting a special carpet on the garden path so Marcus's wheelchair wouldn't sink into the grass. They also made sure all the tables at the reception would be the perfect height for his wheelchair. As the wedding day got closer, Sarah and Marcus sent out beautiful invitations. They included a note saying that their wedding would celebrate love that breaks all barriers. Many people wrote back saying how inspired they were by their story. "You two are teaching everyone what real love looks like," Sarah's father told them one day. He had come a long way from his first worried reaction to their relationship. With just 1 month left before the wedding, almost everything was ready. The suit was perfect, the dress was beautiful, and they had practiced their dance until it felt natural. Even though planning a wedding with special needs was sometimes hard, Sarah and Marcus showed everyone that love finds a way to make things work. Every challenge they overcame made their bond stronger. They knew their wedding wouldn't be like other weddings, but that's what made it special. It would be uniquely theirs, just like their love story. Finally, their wedding day arrived. The Garden View Hotel looked magical on this sunny Saturday morning. White flowers and light blue ribbons decorated every ramp and doorway. The garden where they would have their ceremony had rows of white chairs with a wide, smooth aisle in the middle for Marcus's wheelchair. Sarah woke up early in her hotel room, feeling butterflies in her stomach. Her sisters and mother helped her get ready. As they fixed her hair and helped with her makeup, Sarah remembered the journey that brought her to this day. "I can't believe my baby girl is getting married," Mrs. Jenkins said, wiping happy tears from her eyes as she helped Sarah put on her beautiful white dress. In another room, Marcus was getting ready with help from his brother James and his father. His new suit fit perfectly, just as Mr. Chen had promised. James helped Marcus put on his tie and pinned a white rose to his jacket. "You look very handsome, son," Mr. Thompson said, his voice full of pride. "Sarah is a lucky woman." The guests started arriving at 10 o'clock. Everyone noticed how beautiful the hotel looked. The ramps were decorated with flower arches, making them look like they were always meant to be there. Some guests who used wheelchairs themselves felt especially happy to see such a perfectly accessible wedding. At 11 o'clock, it was time for the ceremony to begin. Marcus wheeled himself to the front of the aisle, looking nervous but happy. His wheelchair had been decorated with small white flowers that matched Sarah's bouquet. The music started playing, a beautiful jazz version of "Here Comes the Bride." Everyone stood up and turned to look as Sarah appeared at the end of the aisle. She looked like an angel in her white dress, holding her father's arm. Marcus felt tears in his eyes when he saw her. Sarah was the most beautiful bride he had ever seen. Her dress sparkled in the sunlight, and her smile was brighter than all the decorations combined. As Sarah walked down the aisle, she saw Marcus waiting for her, looking so handsome in his suit. She remembered how they first met at the hospital, never knowing that moment would lead to this beautiful day. When Sarah reached the front, her father kissed her cheek and placed her hand in Marcus's. The priest smiled at them both and began the ceremony. "We are here today," the priest said, "to celebrate a love that shows us all that true connection knows no barriers." Sarah and Marcus had written their own wedding vows. Marcus went first, his voice strong and clear. "Sarah, you saw me for who I am, not what I couldn't do. You showed me that love doesn't need perfect legs to walk. It just needs a perfect heart to grow. I promise to love you more each day and make you as happy as you've made me." Sarah wiped happy tears as she said her vows. "Marcus, you taught me that love isn't about what's on the outside, what's in the heart. Your strength and joy inspire me every day. I promise to be by your side always, to laugh with you, cry with you, and dance with you in our own special way." When they exchanged rings, Marcus's hands were steady as he placed the gold band on Sarah's finger. Sarah's hands shook a little as she put Marcus's ring on, but her smile never faded. "I now pronounce you husband and wife," the priest said. "You may kiss the bride." Sarah leaned down slightly as Marcus reached up, and their kiss was perfect. Everyone clapped and cheered. Some guests were crying happy tears, touched by the beauty of their love. As they went back down the aisle together, Sarah walking beside Marcus's wheelchair, rose petals fell around them. The photographer captured every moment, especially the way they looked at each other with so much love. "We did it," Marcus whispered to Sarah as they reached the end of the aisle. "We did it together," Sarah answered, squeezing his hand. Their family and friends followed them inside for the reception, but nobody knew that the biggest surprise of the day was still to come. Marcus had a special secret that would make their wedding celebration even more magical. The wedding reception started at 1 o'clock in the hotel's beautiful ballroom. Everyone loved how the room was decorated. Blue and white flowers were on every table, and tiny lights twinkled on the ceiling like stars. All the tables were arranged so Marcus could easily move his wheelchair between them. The DJ announced, "Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the new Mr. and Mrs. Thompson." As Sarah and Marcus entered the ballroom, all their guests stood up and clapped. Marcus wheeled in smoothly while Sarah walked beside him, still holding his hand and smiling brightly. They went to their special table at the front of the room. Sarah's sister Amy had decorated it with flowers and ribbons that matched Marcus's wheelchair. The table was the perfect height for Marcus to sit comfortably with his new wife. "Are you happy?" Marcus asked Sarah as they settled at their table. "Happier than I've ever been," Sarah answered, kissing his cheek. Soon it was time for the speeches. Sarah's father, Mr. Jenkins, stood up first. He looked nervous but happy as he held the microphone. "When Sarah first told me about Marcus," he began, "I was worried. I didn't understand how perfect they were for each other. But Marcus taught me something important. He showed me that love isn't about what a person can or can't do. It's about how they make your child's eyes light up with joy." Many people wiped tears from their eyes as Mr. Jenkins continued, "Marcus, today, I'm not just giving away my daughter. I'm gaining a son who has shown me what true strength looks like. Welcome to our family." Next, Marcus's best friend Kevin got up to speak. "I've known Marcus since before his accident," he said. "And I can tell you that meeting Sarah was the best thing that ever happened to him. She didn't just love him, she helped him find his joy again." Jenny, who had helped Marcus plan his proposal, gave a beautiful speech too. She told everyone about how she watched Sarah and Marcus fall in love at the hospital. "Love like theirs doesn't come along every day," she said. "They show us all that real love has no limits." After the speeches, it was time for dinner. The hotel staff served delicious food that Sarah and Marcus had carefully chosen. They made sure to have options that everyone could enjoy, including Marcus's favorite chicken dish and Sarah's mother's special mac and cheese recipe. Between dinner courses, many guests came to their table to congratulate them. All patients from the hospital were there that came to thank them for inspiring others. Some people in wheelchairs told Marcus how happy they were to see such a beautiful wedding that included everyone. Marcus's young nephew Tommy made everyone laugh when he came up and asked, "Uncle Marcus, can I have a wheelchair race with you later?" "Maybe after dessert," Marcus answered with a smile, making everyone around them chuckle. The wedding cake was wheeled out at 4 o'clock. It was beautiful, 4 layers of white cake decorated with blue flowers that matched their wedding colors. Sarah and Marcus had practiced cutting the cake together, and they did it perfectly, each holding the knife together as their guests took pictures. As the afternoon went on, the DJ played great music that got everyone dancing. People in wheelchairs danced alongside people who could walk, showing that joy and celebration don't need any special abilities. Sarah danced with her father while Marcus watched proudly. Then Marcus danced with his mother, spinning his wheelchair gracefully as she moved beside him. Everyone could see how much practice they had put into making these moments special. "You've given us such a beautiful wedding," Sarah told Marcus as they watched their guests enjoying themselves. "Just wait," Marcus said with a mysterious smile. "The best part is still coming." Sarah looked curious, but Marcus wouldn't say more. He had been planning something special for months, and soon everyone would see what it was. As the sun began to set outside, Marcus checked his watch. It was almost time for the surprise that would make this wedding reception unforgettable. None of the guests knew what was about to happen, but they could feel the excitement building in the air. Something magical was about to take place at this already perfect wedding celebration. As evening came, the reception was in full swing. The dance floor was filled with happy guests, and the room glowed with warm light from the crystal chandeliers. At exactly 7 o'clock, Marcus whispered something to the DJ, who nodded and started to lower the music. "Sarah, honey," Marcus said softly to his new wife, "I need to go to the back room for a few minutes. I have something I need to do." Sarah looked confused but smiled. "Do you want me to come with you?" "No, stay here," Marcus replied with a mysterious smile. "I'll be right back." As Marcus wheeled away, his brother James and Kevin, his former dance student, followed him to a private room. Nobody except these two knew what Marcus had been planning for the past 6 months. While Marcus was gone, Jenny kept Sarah busy by showing her some wedding photos she had taken earlier. But Sarah couldn't help wondering what her new husband was doing. After 15 minutes, the DJ spoke into the microphone. "Ladies and gentlemen, please clear the dance floor. Marcus has a very special surprise for his bride." The guests moved back, forming a circle around the empty dance floor. Sarah stood at one edge, her heart beating fast with excitement and curiosity. The lights dimmed, and a spotlight appeared at the ballroom entrance. Everyone turned to look. There stood Marcus, but something was different. Instead of his wheelchair, he was standing between two metal bars, wearing what looked like special leg braces. Sarah's hands flew to her mouth in shock. Tears filled her eyes as she watched her husband. For the first time since his accident, Marcus was standing up. "Sarah," Marcus's voice came through the microphone he was wearing. "For the past 6 months, I've been working with a special doctor and physical therapist. They helped me learn to use these new leg braces. I wanted to give you the most amazing wedding gift, our first dance together," standing up. The room was completely silent. Everyone watched as James and Kevin stood on either side of Marcus, ready to help if needed. The leg braces made soft mechanical sounds as Marcus took his first step toward Sarah. "It's not easy," Marcus continued, moving slowly but steadily, "and I can only stand for a short time, but I wanted to hold you in my arms for our first dance as husband and wife." By now, Sarah was crying happy tears. Their guests were also emotional, watching this incredible moment. Some were filming with their phones, while others wiped tears from their eyes. When Marcus finally reached Sarah, he held out his arms to her. "May I have this dance, Mrs. Thompson?" Sarah stepped into his arms carefully, trying not to knock him off balance. The DJ started playing their special song, "At Last," by Etta James. Marcus and Sarah began to sway gently to the music. "I can't believe you did this," Sarah whispered, looking up into Marcus's eyes. "How long have you been planning this surprise?" "Since the day you said you'd marry me," Marcus answered. "I wanted to give you a perfect moment to remember forever." They moved slowly together, Marcus's braces allowing him to take small steps as they turned in a gentle circle. Sarah could feel him trembling slightly with the effort, but his smile never faded. Their guests watched in amazed silence. Sarah's father held her mother as they cried happy tears. Marcus's parents hugged each other, proud of their son's determination. After a few minutes, Marcus whispered, "I need to sit down soon, but I'll remember these moments forever." "I love you so much," Sarah said, holding him close. James brought Marcus's wheelchair, and he carefully sat down. The guests burst into applause and cheers. Many people were crying and hugging each other, touched by what they had just witnessed. Sarah knelt beside Marcus's wheelchair and kissed him. "That was the most beautiful surprise anyone has ever given me," she said. "I told you our wedding would be magical," Marcus replied with a tired but happy smile. "And this is just the beginning of our life together." The surprise had turned their beautiful wedding into something extraordinary. It showed everyone that with love, determination, and hope, amazing things were possible. After Marcus's amazing surprise, the wedding reception became even more joyful. Everyone wanted to talk about the beautiful moment they had just witnessed. Guests kept coming up to Marcus and Sarah to tell them how moved they were by their love story. "You two have shown us what true love really means," Jenny said, hugging them both. She had tears in her eyes, just like most of the other guests. Marcus was tired from his special dance, but he couldn't stop smiling. Sarah stayed close to his wheelchair, holding his hand and looking at him with so much love in her eyes. Every few minutes, she would lean down to kiss his cheek or whisper "I love you" in his ear. "I still can't believe you learned to use those leg braces just for our wedding dance," Sarah said, squeezing his hand. "I would do anything to make you happy," Marcus replied. "Seeing your face when I stood up made all those months of practice worth it." Their parents came over to their table, still emotional from the surprise. Sarah's father put his hand on Marcus's shoulder. "Son," Mr. Jenkins said, his voice shaking a little, "what you did today shows exactly why you're perfect for my daughter. You never give up, and you always think of ways to make her happy." Mrs. Thompson hugged Sarah tightly. "Welcome to the family, sweetheart. Thank you for loving our Marcus so completely." As the evening went on, more people joined the dancing. Marcus's nephew Tommy showed everyone his best dance moves, making people laugh and cheer. Some guests took turns dancing with Sarah, while others sat with Marcus and shared stories. The DJ played all their favorite songs. When a special jazz tune came on, Sarah danced next to Marcus's wheelchair, just like they had practiced. Marcus spun his chair in smooth movements, showing that their love could dance in many different ways. Near the end of the reception, Sarah's sister Amy brought out a guest book. Instead of just signing their names, guests wrote messages about what they had learned from Sarah and Marcus's love story. One guest wrote, "You taught us that love doesn't see disabilities, only possibilities." Another wrote, "Your story shows us that miracles happen when two hearts believe in each other." As the night grew late, Marcus and Sarah started saying goodbye to their guests. Each person who left told them how this was the most beautiful wedding they had ever been to. Not because everything was perfect, Sarah's old friend from the hospital said, but because your love made everything beautiful. Finally, it was time for the newlyweds to leave. Their families gathered around as they prepared to go to their hotel suite. "Ready to start our new life together?" Marcus asked Sarah. "I've been ready since the day I met you," she answered with a bright smile. Before they left, Marcus had one more thing to say to everyone. "Thank you all for sharing this day with us," he said. "Sarah and I want you to remember that love doesn't need perfect conditions to grow. It just needs two hearts willing to work together and believe in each other." Sarah and Marcus left the reception under a shower of rose petals. Their family and friends cheered as they went to the elevator. Sarah pushed Marcus's wheelchair, both of them laughing and happy. In their hotel suite, Sarah helped Marcus get comfortable in bed. They talked about all the wonderful moments from their wedding day. "I can't wait to spend the rest of my life with you," Sarah said, lying next to her new husband. "We're going to have so many more beautiful moments together," Marcus promised. Today was just the beginning. As they fell asleep that night, both Sarah and Marcus knew they had started something special. Their wedding day had shown everyone that true love doesn't see barriers or limitations. It only sees the beauty in two hearts joining together. Their story would be told for years to come, inspiring others to believe in the power of love. It proved that when two people truly love each other, anything is possible, even standing up to dance at your wedding after doctors said you might never stand again. And this was just the first day of their new life together, a life that promised to be filled with more love, more surprises, and more moments of proving that nothing is impossible when you have the right person by your side.